Greetings, consciousness. Welcome back. And so in this podcast, we are talking about the living Christ in man. The living Christ in man. And so in this little podcast, we are going to go to Matthew, the 16th chapter and verse 13. I want to discuss something with you on this chapter, because here a conversation takes place between Jesus and the disciples, and he asked them, "Who do you say I am?" Now, with this verse, the average person thinks that this man is speaking about himself as a physical being. But the truth here is, who do you say I am is talking about your true self. When you look at the depiction on this podcast, you can see Anubis and Aset feeding eternal life to a person, and this person has a luminous body, which means the atom dwells within him, which is the soul of man. The Christ within, when awakens. And so many said, "We think you're Elijah," and this and this and that. But Peter turns around and said, if you read the King James Version, "I think you are the Christ." In some verses they will say Messiah, but that's not what it means. The Christ is the correct interpretation, because the Christ dwells within you. This knowledge was always in Kemet. And so Taote said, if man will stop crawling on his belly in the mud of the earth, he can resurrect himself and ascend to where he came from. And so Jesus goes on and saying to Peter, these are just stories with a deeper teachings, that flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but this came from heaven. Meaning this insight was given to Peter, not by these two physical eyes, but intuition. Because there is an eternal power, an eternal force that dwells within man. You cannot literally be reading this book and be worshipping a man. This is the reason man was not supposed to bow down to anything, any other gods. A god could be anything to you. Any object, anything you worship is a god. Anything you think you cannot live without is a god to you. And so when you look at the workings of a man, then you can tell that he's working from the Christ consciousness. People have taken this Christ consciousness as a person. But like I've said to you many times, in our writings, the light in the heavens is that which saves man. and this light dwells within you. Those of you who read the Bible literally, if you go to Revelation 11 and 8, it talks about Egypt and Sodom is spoken of figuratively, allegorically, symbolically. That's what it means. And it says that's where their Lord was also crucified. Now you know that Jesus was crucified in Egypt. Jerusalem. But in this verse, Revelation, it says where their Lord was also crucified, by Sodom or Egypt. And so if you take the Bible literally, this will create a lot of confusion. When you know Jesus was crucified in Jerusalem, at a place called Golgotha, and you are told in Revelation 11 and 8, where their Lord was crucified, just go and take a look. Because it said, Egypt and Sodom is spoken of figuratively, symbolically. Those of you who think Egypt is evil, or the stories of Sodom, they all have a deeper meaning. And so when an atom incarnates in a body, it is crucified. And so with the cross, by nailing the flesh to the cross, means the atom is set free. Symbolically, that's what that meant. You see, and this is why I tell those who listen to me, don't take the Bible literally. And that's why I introduce other books to you. It's very key. When you look at the image on this podcast, you can see the luminous body. There are powers that work beyond man's consciousness. When you laid asleep, let's go back to when we were children, shall we say. Most of us used to go to sleep, and when we wake up, we are peed in our bed. You laid unconscious in your bed, because most children are not so conscious of how much water they'll drink before they go to sleep, and so they'll drink so much water, and then their parents will send them to sleep. And so whilst he's laying unconscious, what happens is the higher self, the subconscious mind, takes over. And because the subconscious mind doesn't want you to destroy your bladder, harm yourself whilst you're laying unconscious, a simulation, that's something that you call dream, will happen. Perhaps you find yourself in a dream playing with your friends, and all of a sudden you want to go pee in your dream, and then you go peeing somewhere, and you feel so relieved. But afterwards, you realize you are laying in a wet bed, and you wake up. This is the higher mind operating on you, even though you sleep. You are unconscious. And so there is a power beyond you as a physical being that operates in the background all the time. And this is also why when many people become sexually active and they don't have a partner, a girlfriend or whoever, you start having dreams of having sex and stuff like this, which they call wet dream, which many people will tell you some demon is sleeping with you. But this is a simulation also, just like how you dream of peeing and then you pee in your bed. When you pee in your bed, nobody tells you that the devil is doing that. But when you have sex in your dream, that's coming from the devil. This is coming from the subconscious, because the subconscious know that you are sexually active. You have a desire to have sex. And so to quench the urge, that stimulation will take place where you find yourself having sex with somebody in your dream. And of course, we all know what happens when you wake up. And so man has to be very conscious of himself, that he is multi-dimensional. He is not a flesh at all. Eternal creature in the flesh. You see, and so I gave you this verse, Revelation 11:8. It tells you where their Lord was crucified. Who is your Lord? The atom dwells in your body. The Christ is crucified in the flesh. That's your body. That's why they said, dear Lord. And so when you read, who do you say I am? The I am is your true identity, consciousness. Of all the religions, tribes, nations on the planet Earth, everybody uses the I am. I am going to bed. I am going to do this. I am going to do that. If you're having a conversation with your friend, you don't call out your name and say, going to do this. You say, I am going to school. I am going to work. Because that is your natural identity. And so who do you say I am? Simply means, do you know my true identity? And so the book says, Peter said, thou art the Christ. And Peter was told, this was not given to you by flesh and blood. Because one who can say these things is born of the Spirit. You understand consciousness? Peace.